Alright, so I played a game recently called Baldur's Gate 3. I can't remember the last time I've experienced the game this buggy. It must have been on NES with all the emulators, but even then it was somewhat expected. When you load up Cheetah 2, you don't exactly expect a magnum opus which is gonna run flawlessly. Anyway, Baldur's Gate 3 is not good. It is simply not good. No map, endless load and crashes, freezes, a weird workaround to even start the bloody thing. But that's just the technical side of thing. And by the way, yes, to start the game you have to start it and quickly press shift. If you don't, the game will just sit in the background eating about 100 megabytes of RAM. The last time I remember something weird like that was with Gears of War 1, either in 2008 or something else along those lines. To start the game you needed to change your date to an earlier year because of some weird licensing thing expiring. But you'd expect things to get more stable since then, right? I think among the things I can mention which are actually good about this game is the ability to shove. In fact, it enabled me to beat some opponents I would have lost to otherwise. At one point I defeated the boss by shoving her off a cliff and, well, I did have a good laugh about that, so that's always good. Jump is another addition which is a lot more convenient than leveling Huntsman or Scoundrel just so you can get one ability to jump around. Also verticality. Divinity Original Sin never really had different floors, everything is actually on one plane. Sometimes it goes up and down, but it's never actually overlapping, while in Baldur's Gate 3 you can actually have one character on a platform above another. There's a spider's cave, for example, where I burnt the webs and had a spider fall and crush one of my characters to death. Which was a mistake, of course, but the mechanic itself is very cool, even if I didn't actually use it to my advantage. But I can't just as easily complain about the addition of inventory being a lot more clunky than before, with having no way to filter by the type of item. I cannot just hide the items I don't need anymore, or, for example, I only want to see the equipment, there's just no button for that. Money now also has weight, the confusing spell and crafting UI, with D&D terms which make no sense to me, and ingredients which sometimes are already usable and other times need something done to them. Point is that not all the additions are good. Whatever. So as far as the gameplay goes, I am once again reminded that D&D was not made for video games, and it should be criminal to force D&D into video games. The 10-page skill descriptions with confusing terminology, the endless abilities of which half aren't ever going to get used because they're just worse than other ones, while the other half of abilities is for the most part situational. The idiotic dice rolls when none are needed, absolutely insane difficulty spikes, the sheer volume of save scum needed to roleplay consistently because, oh, you failed one skill check, I guess you're gonna have to fight 10,000 enemies. Oh, you had a skill check during completely irrelevant dialogue, well, I guess everything works fine. And because that's how it works every single time. I literally cannot find a single redeeming quality to the D&D system. Larian themselves came up with a much better system in Divinity Original Sin. There was no reason to downgrade to this trash. Use the world, use the lore, but toss the system into the recycling bin where it belongs. Shadowrun, Age of Decadence, Atom RPG, Underrail, even Planescape Torment, which is also D&D, all of those games have systems which are made for video games and they actually work in this medium. I don't know, maybe if you have a DM sitting there carefully, painstakingly crafting the adventure and concocting the encounters for you so you can use every single ability at your disposal, then it would be wonderful. But for video games it's like shooting yourself in the foot with how much innovation and change has happened since D&D was first introduced. I would also like to complain about the general story and the characters especially. In the beginning I've had a cutscene shoved into my face right away, and I always complain about that. Only after that cutscene I was able to actually create a character, which then led me into more cutscenes. I already have a problem here. After that I was presented with a gory, confusing and generally unpleasant scene on the ship. This sort of thing makes for a terrible introduction. But let's not forget the characters, as I immediately meet an utterly unlikable bitch who shows up and bosses the player around. She then rushes me alone as I try to rescue the only other person they encounter. Ignoring her protest, I meet Shadowheart, which is not a bloody name, it's a title, regardless. Despite me saving her life, she acts whiny and moody, utterly mistrustful of everyone. Splendid. At least there was a word of thanks for saving her, more than the up-nosed bitch ever did. Anyway, after breaking out of a ship I make it on land, and here the lack of any map makes for a pretty huge problem, but I keep going. It eventually leads into me talking to randos in some ruins, who instantly decide that talking with a fire and lightning throwing lizard who can read minds is a bad idea. So instead, they should kill me. Which obviously doesn't work out, so I kill them and kill their friends and discover next to nothing in the ruins proper. Wonderful, I don't know why I even bothered. Moving on, I barge into the destroyed ship and fight the brains, which were friendly before for some reason, now turned hostile. Great. And what follows is a meeting with a fishy character who acts fishy right away, and I decide to avoid his fishy ass altogether, which doesn't work at all, and he tries to murder me anyway, despite, again, me seeing it coming a mile away. But when more is revealed, he acts nonchalant, as if it's business as usual. I decide to kick him to the curb, and just as what he is a cunt and I didn't earn any degree of forgiveness. Shortly after that, I discover Gale, who has a fairly amusing introduction of poking out of a random rock. He didn't leave much of an impression on me by the end of my time with the game, but he's probably the most likable guy in the group. Then I meet some goblins, well, yada yada yada. I continue walking around and exploring, but I seem to find a very common thread. There are maybe 2 or 3 characters who don't berate me or act generally unpleasant. Hell, even the ogres who threaten to eat me are friendlier than Shadowheart, the druids, or any of the tieflings. It's baffling. It's like the entire world just hates me for no goddamn reason. By the way, the eloquent ogre was pretty amusing, I can admit that. Anyway, the breaking moment was when I randomly went down some stairs and discovered a giant dungeon with a river of all things, which you can sail to a settlement of underground great dwarfs. For one, to get to that entire area, I've had to go through a ton of traps, murderous minotaurs, and shooting statues, which are behind a closed gate. So to even get through the gate, I either have to lockpick, which none of my characters did well, or I have to jump and break my legs. That was wonderful. After that, I also bumped into a random burrowing lizard, which kept throwing half my team off a cliff. I must have spent at least 30 minutes trying to get through all of that crap, with most of it spent in the loading screens. So, second point. These guys, these grave dwarves, except for a single character, all insult me and everyone else. That was already a problem. It just got amplified yet again. Point 3 is these guys abuse the bulls, the animals, and I don't really get an option to help the bulls somehow. Just make them work and avoid getting beaten. This is not a big thing, I admit, it's just animal abuse, it's fake video game animal abuse, but I was already looking for excuses to stop playing. I just do not like to see animals abused. I'm sorry, sue me. And 4 is the fact that the moment I tried to leave, the annoying "Oh bro, I'm dying in a poison death cloud" voice came back. I don't know how to help that guy, I don't know where, I could barely navigate as it is, and I don't know what true soul even is or why should I care. I attempted to buff my strongest character by making them huge, hoping that maybe I could push aside the rocks, but instead it just kept giving me that cutscene over and over, with no interaction element. It's not as if interrupting me or being confusing was the last straw, but I was simply so lost and tired of that game by this point that it was enough for me. I stopped and took a simple stock of what I have enjoyed and what pissed me off, and the second column appeared significantly bigger. I basically liked exactly one character. Granny or Auntie or whatever her name is. A friendly old woman who is totally not suspicious in any way. I mean, I did see what she was about and eventually did kill her, but she was a good character. Literally nobody else in the game made me interested to know more. I kept hearing about Karlek before starting and pushed on to get to her, but I just couldn't bother. Dealing with endless bugs while constantly being berated reminds me too much of my time at work. I'd rather get paid than play this, and speaking of which, it really is too damn similar to my work. Getting berated, having to do annoying busy work all the while the software is trying to fight me every step of the way because some underpaid kid out of college made it in a weekend. So I might as well bring this up. Playing Baldur's Gate 3 succeeds only at one thing, making Divinity Original Sin 2 look that much better. Literally everything in that game is better. The characters, the leveling, the balance, the overall gameplay, hell, I even like the narrator better. As a narrator, at least. Anytime Amelia Tyler talks, I want to do inappropriate things to that woman. Things I don't want to say out loud here. Which is on me, I am not blaming anyone else, but it makes it harder to focus. And really, even the whole opening scene feels similar. You've got a ship, it crashes, welcome some people on the beach, walk into a walled city. Explore some weird dungeon leading into another place. I guess it's a bit broad, but the point is that, again, I couldn't put Divinity down. I recall playing the early access version, and I just kept clicking everything, talking to everybody, and doing everything and for joy. And everyone had something interesting to say, be it that old chap who lost his wife, or an elf out in the shallow water, or even a random dwarf who plays music with Losse. I wanted to know everything in Divinity. And I just couldn't be arsed to even walk into the same place twice, with Baldur's Gate 3. I don't even recall any of the names, be it characters or locations, which is why I only mentioned like 3 names. Will, Shadowheart, and Gale. That's it, I don't remember anyone else. It's bad, is all I'm saying. I had no fun here, or at least very little fun. And unlike Rogue Trader, for example, another game which is highly praised, but I bashed it recently, I couldn't even find anything near as much to enjoy. Like, the opening of that game was brilliant, the late game combat was pretty fun, and management of colonies could eventually be enjoyable. And all the while, I've at least had a bloody map work.